reaction to Celtics Bucks is that was a must-win game for the Celtics. That series is over if you go down 2-0, losing your 2 home games. And history tells us that every team that has ever done that in the conference semis at home has lost, besides the 1994 Houston Rockets. So you're not going to win the series if you win that game. You had to win that game. They came out hot and did so, and were great defensively without the defensive player of the year. On the other side, nice win for Memphis. They're in trouble. They have no shot at winning this series. It took 47 points from Ja Morant, 47, 8, and 8 from Ja Morant, with the Warriors shooting 18% from downtown. And they still needed a Scott Foster bailout call to secure that win. This is a nice win for Memphis, but they have no shot in the series.
Okay, Jules, let's move to tonight. Still no Embiid for Philly in game 2. Miami, a heavy favorite, 8.5 is the spread, minus 425 on the money line. Dude, did you see anything in game 1 that kind of makes you think that Philly can steal game 2?
Not really. Maybe their minutes late in the second quarter and first quarter with DeAndre Jordan on the bench, somewhat encouraging. But for the most part, Doc Rivers, who, tough spot without Embiid, but you can still do a better coaching job. You don't have to start DeAndre Jordan, and they're going to. So for me, that just secures that I want to be putting my money on the Heat early in this game, first to 20 points, first quarter, anything like that. And, the only thing that's a bigger lock than the Heat winning tonight is you having a bathing suit on under the desk.
Oh my God, how did you know I had a bathing suit on under the desk? You're not even here in studio. Your sources, you're using the force today. Good boy, Julian. All right, it's now, Jeff, now 8 points is the spread. Miami, an 8-point favorite at home, and minus 400 on the money line. What kind of faith, if at all, do you have in the 76ers evening this thing up without Joel Embiid?
I don't have much faith, Emerson. I think there are definitely areas that Philly can attack to make this a closer contest, but I don't think they can win this one. I was really impressed by Tobias Harris in game 1. When Philly traded for James Harden, he became the team's 4th option due to the emergence of Tyrese Maxey. But Harris is still a gifted scorer, and he took advantage of his best trait, which is his size, against the Heat in the first game of his series. He was getting to his spots with ease, taking the shots that he wanted, really just bullying anyone that tried to guard him. If he can keep that aggressiveness up and we get more from James Harden and Tyrese Maxey offensively, I think this could be a closer game. The Heat are never going to put you in the ground offensively. They create their separation on the defensive side of the ball. If Philly can be more productive in this game, I consider taking them +8, but in reality, Miami's probably going to go up 2-0 in this series.
All right, Chinmay, what's your prediction tonight here?
Yeah, it's hard to see the Sixers winning this one outright, but I do think the 8-point spread is a decent spot for Philadelphia. They did have some good second quarter minutes. They actually did have a halftime lead in game 1, and James Harden was not James Harden in that game. And I think with Joel Embiid out, the Sixers obviously have prepared for Joel Embiid being out, but it's very different to then go into a game against a tough Miami defense and immediately start having success with your game plan that wasn't going to have Embiid. So I do think there's a spot for Philly where Tobias Harris continues to do what he's doing. Tyrese Maxey has a better game. And James Harden, most importantly, has a better game. We'll see if Doc Rivers is stubborn enough to keep running DeAndre Jordan out there for like 25-plus minutes. And if that happens, then sure, Miami is going to cover this thing easy. But if Doc figures out that, hey, maybe everybody else in the world knows something that I somehow don't, and DeAndre Jordan is not going to be getting extended run in this game, then maybe Philly does cover the 8-point spread. But I don't see the Sixers winning outright. Definitely will take Miami outright in this one.
Okay, so Chinmay, let's go to Dallas here. Dallas and Phoenix. We know that Luka's one-man act fell short in game 1. Those 45 points, extremely impressive. Are you expecting much of the same results in game 2? We got a 6-point favorite here, the Suns are.
I do think it'll still be a close game, actually. I think Dallas has made some of the best defensive adjustments throughout the season. Jason Kidd has done a phenomenal job on that side of the ball for the Mavericks. And I do think Luka will be more of a distributor in this game because he realizes that it can't just be a one-man show. And the Suns will hone in on him defensively if he keeps doing that. So they need Jalen Brunson to step up, and they need Maxi Kleber to hit a few outside shots. Reggie Bullock is another guy that could be a key contributor for Dallas in this game. But I still would take the Suns here at home. I think Chris Paul has a bigger game than he did in game one, probably more of a distributing role for him. And I would take Phoenix still in this game. I still think the Suns are getting into their groove, and there's a reason they had the best record in the NBA in the regular season. Luka is phenomenal, but it'll take a jaw-like effort from Luka for the Mavericks to even have a chance in this game. So the better bet is with Phoenix here.
Okay, Jules, what are you looking at here on the DK Sportsbook for this one? Like that late push that Dallas did make in that game, is that a silver lining at all?
It's not a bad thing. At least they showed some life, but that game was not as close as the final score indicated. Phoenix isn't as strong of a spot as Miami is tonight, but I think they're in a very strong spot at home. I agree. It's Suns or pass for me. They dominated that game for the most part, and this isn't like the Jazz are a mess, and that really helped Dallas in that series. They have a much tougher time with Ayton in the paint and his skill set than they do with a Rudy Gobert. And, like I said about Memphis, they snuck by in that game with 47, 8, and 8 from Ja. Dallas came back in that game with 45 on the road from Doncic. If he doesn't do that in this game, I don't know how it stays that close. So it's going to be the Suns for me with Booker back on the floor. They just have too much going for them.
Okay, who covers tonight, Jeff?
Phoenix does. Luka racked up 45 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists in game one, and it was still never in question for the Suns. This is just a continuation of what we've seen from the Mavs over the last few years in the playoffs. They aren't surrounding Luka Doncic with enough talent to compete against elite teams. Jalen Brunson's a great player. He's going to get paid this offseason, but he was horrible in game one, and even when he's at his best, it's probably still not enough to be a number 2 option. An offensive-minded player like Spencer Dinwiddie only scoring 8 points just isn't enough. The Suns don't have the best player in this series, but they have the second, third, fourth, and fifth best players, along with a better coach. Dallas just doesn't have enough to keep up with them. I'd take the Suns to cover.
All right, Jules, last one here. Which other bets should people be looking out for tonight on the DK Sportsbook? Any props, any alternate spreads, totals, anything like that?
For me, it's going to be back in Miami early. As soon as we get confirmation. I haven't seen it officially, I guess, but Doc Rivers said that DeAndre Jordan's going to start in this game. So I got to look at pricing, but give me Miami first to 10, Miami first to 20, Miami first quarter. It's not going to go well. He's like the worst player in the NBA by the numbers.
All right, Jeff, what about you?
I'm still laughing about DeAndre Jordan starting.
I don't
Honestly,
is he trying to get fired?
I hope so. Because there's no other explanation for it. I'm looking at a couple player props here. Revisiting the Philly-Miami game, I'm going back to Tobias Harris here. His points prop is set at 19.5, or at least it was last time I checked on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. And for what we've seen from him throughout the series, I feel confident that he can hit that over. He was consistently looking for a shot and was by far Philly's most aggressive player in game one. This is a great matchup for him, as Miami doesn't have someone big enough to knock him off his spot. So I look for him to stay aggressive tonight. And then heading over to the Mavs-Suns game quickly, DeAndre Ayton over 19.5 points at plus money is very appealing as well. Between Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, and Dorian Finney-Smith, Dallas simply doesn't have anyone that can contain Ayton down low. He's hit the over on this number in 4 of his last 5 games, and I expect that streak to continue tonight.
Chinmay, any other bets you got an eye on for tonight?
Yeah, 2 player props, both at plus money the last time I checked. Bam Adebayo over 10.5 rebounds was plus money, and with no Embiid on the floor, that seems like a pretty easy one. And Chris Paul over 9.5 assists was also at plus money last time I checked. I know he's had a couple down games, and he's gone under in the last 2, but the 5 games previous to that, he was over and over quite easily. And I think Paul has more of a distributing role tonight. Devin Booker gets back into more of a shooting rhythm. So I like both of those player props, both at plus money. Feel like those are good spots to hit.
All right, cool. Basketball guys, appreciate you. Mean it. We will take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at some salaries on DraftKings around the diamond. Gander at the top 5 scores around Major League Baseball last night. There is a Blue Jay. There is a Blue Jay on that board. However, Toronto did fall to the Yankees as the Pinstripes cannot stop winning right now. But Brandon, was he? Oh, really? Sorry, just had producer Tom on my ear saying Brandon Woodruff was a put up your Bukes pick by Gary and Thorne. Gary and Thorne, you are here as well as Nick Fryer. Can you confirm that? Because I can't remember.
I can confirm that, yes.
You feel proud.
I don't know how the other picks did. I think there was like a rain out, and that canceled one of them. I don't think the White Sox ended up facing a lefty, so that's concerning. But yes, I did definitely pick Brandon Woodruff. That was a good thing that happened.
Dude, congratulations. Hopefully it doesn't have to come down to that tiebreaker you were so upset about.
Yeah.
Look how emotional you are.
I agree.
All right, let's figure out, let's do some price check. Let's figure out which guys you like tonight. Fryer, I'll start with you. Give me a pitcher over $8,500 here, big guy.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Freddie Peralta at 8.9K.
Yeah!
He is, I know you're such a big Freddie Peralta fan. 8.9K going up against the Reds, of course, one of the worst teams in baseball right now. And Freddie Peralta's been rolling since he got his teeth kicked in by the Cardinals for the millionth time a couple starts ago. 1 run and 6 hits over his last 11 innings, 13 Ks in the process, 3.32 FIP indicates that he's going to improve further going forward. And the Reds against right-handed pitching, bottom 4 in OPS, bottom 4 in ISO, bottom 4 in WOBA with the 132 ISO. And then their K rate against right-handed pitching is 25.3. They don't generate much hard contact at all. There are a few Reds that have hit Peralta well in the past, Colin Moran, Joey Votto, but those are not guys that intimidate me at all right now. So I feel very comfortable with Freddie Peralta at 8.9K tonight.
Okay, Garion, who are you going to pay out for on the mound?
It's got to be Peralta. I mean, you could go with Lucas Giolito. I think he's in a pretty nice spot, too, against the Cubs. They also strike out at a considerable rate. But the Reds come into today's slate with the worst WRC plus in baseball and the highest strikeout rate in baseball. It's actually kind of funny. I mean, Brandon Woodruff was the exact same price yesterday, $8,900. And the big reason for that is, as we talked about yesterday, Woodruff was someone who had an ERA over 5, but a FIP below 3. It's the exact same situation Freddie Peralta's in. He's struggled so far this season due to surface stats, but he's actually been the same guy he's been the last couple of seasons. He's got a strikeout rate hovering around 30%. His FIP is 2.74. I just think he's in a fantastic spot to dominate, much like we saw his teammate do last night. But again, if you do want to pivot here slightly, I do think Lucas Giolito is also in a very nice spot.
All right, guys, talking main slate. So 7 games on the main slate today. A hitter north of $5,000, Garion.
Aaron Judge. If Aaron Judge is facing a left-handed pitcher, especially one of the caliber of Yusei Kikuchi, you just use Aaron Judge. He's $5,900. He's very, very pricey. But if you go back to the beginning of last season, Judge not only leads baseball in expected WOBA against left-handed pitching, he's got a 457 mark in that regard. That is 30 points clear of any other qualified hitter in that span of time. He hits left-handed pitching like no one else in baseball. And if that's not enough for you, if you just want the overall numbers for Aaron Judge so far this season, he's 99th percentile in expected slugging and 99th percentile in expected WOBA. Really, the only qualified hitter he's trailing in those two regards is some guy named Mike Trout. So it's been a really good season for Aaron Judge. Maybe he'll get that kid who got the home run ball yesterday and cried. Maybe he'll get a second home run ball today, or possibly 3 or 4, because Judge might hit a couple.
There is crying in baseball, Nick Fryer. That was such a beautiful moment, Aaron Judge hitting the home run, and it was a Toronto fan turning around, giving the home run ball to a young Yankees fan. It doesn't get much better than that, Nick.
Yeah, it reminds me back when I was a kid going to a Red Sox game, and one of my good friends got pushed over by a grown man to catch a pop fly, behind home plate. But that's another story for another day.
Wow, wow, you are traumatized.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but Gary and I are in lockstep. Aaron Judge, this is the way on Wednesday, 5.9K. Going up against Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, Gary highlighted a lot of numbers. I have quite a few different numbers too, but they all lead to the same result. He's 15 for his last 42, 8 home runs during that stretch too, and that's only over 10 games, which is ridiculous. His hard contact rate against left-handed pitching, 56.3%. His ISO is WOBA are through the roof against lefties as well, and his BABIP's actually only 250 against left-handed pitching too. So that indicates that we're just going to see more of the same that we're getting from him right now, if not a little bit better, if that's somehow possible. And then going up against Kikuchi, I mean, he's limited hard contact against right-handed hitting so far, but he hasn't generated a ton of soft contact either. But still, righties have a 440 WOBA and a 10.05 OPS against him this season.
5th home run in his last 5 games, by the way, last night. Fryer, value hitter. Who you want?
Yeah, I know Jose Abreu doesn't fall under value at 4.2K, but that is one that I'm kind of surprised by because he's done well against Kyle Hendricks this season. But I want to look a little bit deeper down in that lineup too. At 3.2K, Josh Harrison going up against Kyle Hendricks. I know he's coming off a rough outing against the Brewers, and now he's seeing a lineup that, there are a few guys that do hit him well, as much as the White Sox have not done all that great against right-handed pitching this season. Harrison has seen Hendricks enough for me to feel comfortable citing these numbers in terms of just their matchup head-to-head. 11 for 42 against Hendricks throughout his career, 3 home runs and a double. And he's coming in with a little momentum as well, 5 for his last 12 with 3 doubles. So I know that you look at Harrison's season numbers through a few weeks of the season, has not looked great, but he's doing well of late, and he's done well against Hendricks historically.
Gary, and who's swinging good wood that's not going to cost you a whole lot?
I'm going to go with Rowdy Tellez. We just talked about Judge being near the top of the leaderboard in most of the expected statistics so far in 2022. Tellez is honestly not that far behind him. He's 97th percentile in expected WOBA and 98th percentile in expected slugging so far this season. He's basically a platoon bat, but he gets the platoon advantage tonight against Vladimir Gutierrez, who has really struggled for the Reds. This is someone who has always been a contact-oriented pitcher anyway, and now that contact has generally been leaving the park. It's been bad news for Gutierrez so far this season, and the big issue has been left-handed bats. The 45 left-handed bats he's faced so far are hitting above 300 with a 667 slugging percentage. So you've got a guy who can't get left-handed bats out going up against a left-handed bat who is hitting the ball harder than virtually anyone else in the National League right now. So Tellez at 3.9, I think, is a really, really nice play.
All right, guys, apologies to your best bets tonight on the DK Sportsbook because we have run out of time. We love it. We mean it. Pierce Dietrich, Reed T. Fowler are here to talk a little bit about some of the headlines around the NFL right after this break. The NFL draft is now behind us, but there is still a lot of news going down in the NFL because that's what the NFL does best. I'd like to talk to these two dudes about some of this stuff. Pierce Dietrich, Reed T. Fowler, good morning to both of you. Reed, what is that? Is that Chewbacca?
Well, I was always told I have a hairy chest.
Yeah,
so I thought
you do.
Chewbacca, I know you like that, Pierce, based off of your expression. I know you want to hear about the more important things. And there we go. Absolutely. I don't know how quickly that was done, but this is fantastic.
Dude, Billy crushed it. Did you see Jesse earlier? And then look at you.
No.
Dude, that is, you look beautiful with like long flow like that. Looks like you've been spending some time in the desert. You got a nice glow to you.
That's what I look like, after a summer in Hawaii. Just nice blonde locks and hair down to my ears. Endless summer style, Pierce. Pierce used to have hair like that way back when.
Pierce.
I'm more concerned with who did the NASCAR graphic. Reed gets that, and me and Jeff have a graphic that looks like someone used paintbrush on 95 Windows.
That was also Billy. Billy, come over here. Billy, come over here. Pierce needs to see the magician behind these things. This is Billy right here, okay? So you have a problem with these gorgeous graphics? Take it up with him. Email him. Thank
He
you,
goes
Billy.
guns too. Don't
Dude,
take it up with him, Pierce.
Absolutely,
Cool.
Jack. Yeah,
Crush.
you do not want to make him angry, bro. He turns green like this little dude. Grogu. Let's put an NFL spin here on some of the headlines, dudes. And I think the biggest one right now, there's no question, the suspension of Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins out of the first 6 games now of the year. So, Reed, it's a 2-part question, but I'll start with the first part here. How does this impact your thinking when it comes to Arizona's season win total, which is currently set at 9 on the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely bothers it a little bit, right? Because I think it bothers the quarterback, and we don't even know exactly, right? Because Kyler Murray's mentioned, I think today, guys, that he's not going to play unless a new contract is put in place. So the Cardinals have a lot of things to iron out, and currently set at 9 out of a 17-game season. Like, it's not bad, and we know how the Cardinals did before Kyler Murray got hurt. But without DeAndre Hopkins, that's really where we saw Kyler Murray put more pressure on himself, maybe running a little bit more, and that's when he gets hurt. It's when he gets banged up. So, yeah, it definitely affects me. It affects this line, especially in this division. It's still a tough one.
Okay, Pierce, do you feel more like going under than maybe you did before? Maybe you were in that neck of the woods before.
I think they can definitely go over this number. I know the division is tough. I wasn't very bullish on Hopkins, and I don't think Hopkins was bullish on himself if he was using PEDs. Hollywood is definitely an upgrade to this offense. They've got 2 tight ends in Ertz and maybe Max Williams who could have a solid impact. And I really we don't talk a lot about Edmonds leaving, but I think that's ultimately going to benefit this offense. You put James Conner out there, and defenses are going to have to honor the run more. That's going to open up passing lanes. Also with Edmonds, you had a lot more check down passes. And when you've got the check down running back, that prevents Murray from running the ball, which is a strength of this team. If there's going to be upside or potential, it's when Murray is running loose. He wasn't doing that when Chase Edmonds was on the field. So I think that James Conner playing more snaps is going to really elevate this offense. And obviously Hollywood's going to help him too.
Yeah. And look, dude, based off too what Pierce just said, Hollywood played with Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, right? So they already have a connection. He's got, I think you can probably pencil him for about 7 targets per game. And Zach Ertz, that was the name that Pierce just mentioned. You talk about what he did when Hopkins was out last year. He was fantastic in that stretch when Hopkins wasn't playing. Where it's really going to hurt the Cardinals is the red zone without Hopkins. I mean, 27 red zone targets, 9 of his 14 touchdowns came in the red zone. So this is going to be massive. But Hollywood Brown, these guys have a connection already.
Okay, so you like his increased fantasy value now, Reed. And Pierce, you do as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the next question then. We already mentioned Hollywood Brown getting traded, but there was another huge trade that kind of overshadowed the draft there for a little bit. A.J. Brown going from the Titans to the Eagles, and on the DK Sportsbook, his season receiving yards total is set at 1,009.5. Does he get there, though, with Jalen Hurts under center, Pierce?
I don't think so. We are hyping Philly up because they made the playoffs, but you look at the way they got into the playoffs. They played the Giants twice, and they played the Commanders twice. They weren't really a good playoff team, and they had all these draft picks, so there's just this Philly hype train. If we just go back to last season, we'll remember that he had a QB rating under 50. He looked terrible most of the time. Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback. His intended air yards are 4th, which is good, but we look at completed air yards, he ranks 14th. So he doesn't complete very many passes. Now, you can blame the wide receivers if you want, but Hurts just has not been a great passer. That's not going to bode well for A.J. Brown. And then let us not forget that Philadelphia loves to run the ball. They run the ball constantly. And so when they do pass, they don't complete passes. And then if that's not enough, the offensive line is terrible. Carson Wentz got run out of town because he was getting sacked every single play. That really didn't change with Jalen Hurts. He faced a 26% pressure rate last season. I know it's exciting in the offseason to hype up Philadelphia, but all the problems that existed last season, they're still there. I think this is a downgrade for Brown.
Okay, Reed, how difficult? Okay, you're shocked at what Pierce just said, so you don't see it being as difficult to hit this mark?
No, not at all. I mean, he goes from one team to runs the ball the most and basically in the NFL with Derrick Henry. I mean, who loves to run the ball more than Tennessee and Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry? And Ryan Tannehill, yes, you talk about a pure pocket passer, he's better than Jalen Hurts. But what we don't know, and yes, I'm going down narrative street, a street that Pierce rarely goes on, is like these guys are really good buds. I mean, we just talked about Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown and how that can help. We see what happens with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Now, I'm not saying that's the case in one iota, but that does make a difference. And you take a look at this number, guys. It was around 909.5, I think, when this trade happened. Now it's gone up 100 yards, meaning a lot of people are on this going on the over. And A.J. Brown, in 2 of his last 3 seasons, has gone over 1,000 yards with Derrick Henry being the best running back in the NFL. So granted, I agree with Pierce that in Philadelphia, it's a little bit wonky in terms of how it's going to operate because, you have some other players there like Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. But A.J. Brown in this offense, I think, can really open up a lot. So I'm going over. I like it.
Yeah, he's been a difference maker, at least like fantasy-wise, in a low volume, like passing offense before. 2020 read, PPR scoring per game. Let's see, he ranked 7th there when the Titans had just 485 pass attempts.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, what he does at the end of games, too, is massive.
All right, so Kenny Pickett is your favorite read for Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 500. Is he your favorite? So he's the favorite on the DK Sportsbook.
No, he is not my favorite because he has a tough battle with Mitchell Trubisky for the starting position, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So I'm going to Breece Hall at plus 900 currently with the Jets. I know Pierce is going to say the Jets are a millennial pick. Everyone's picking the Jets because of what they did in the draft. But you take a look at what they did, right? Third pick in the 2nd round. And the reason why I like him the most is he has the clearest path to getting the most production earliest of the guys who I think has the talent to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Michael Carter was a borderline, decent receiver, right, out of the backfield. The yards per route run was 1.5, basically, which is just below Alvin Kamara. Now, when you take a look at Michael Carter and his draft capital, it was 4th round. What did the Jets do? They went on and they got Breece Hall in basically the end of the 1st, beginning of the 2nd. And so when you take a look at that, right, and what Breece Hall can do in this offense, and you have all the other wide receivers out there that these guys have to face, and Robert Salah and this offense wanting to mitigate the mistakes from Zach Wilson, I think Breece Hall has a really good chance to be that guy in a 3-down role.
All right, who is your favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Pierce? Who do you like?
Let's follow last season's blueprint. You have Jamar Chase, who joins a solid wide receiver crew, and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and has a tremendous season. So you look at the Saints, and Chris Olave is going to – now, a lot of this depends on health of Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas, but if Thomas is healthy and Winston is healthy and he slots in, they're not going to be able to put bracket coverage on him. He's going to be open often. It could be a very aggressive pass game. And also, Taysom Hill, it remains to be seen what's going to happen here. But it seems like they've been planning this tight end thing for quite a while. When he signed that contract, they put in reception props and incentives. So although it might seem like it's a new thing to us that, he's going to be a tight end, that this might have been in the works for over a season now. And if Hill ends up being an exceptional tight end, that could be a really explosive offense. And I think Olave is just going to have tons of opportunities to score points.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have, at least to talk NFL. But I have a very bad feeling about this. Billy has also gone to work.
It looks the same. It looks the exact same.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people are like, dude, you look like a handsome Luke Skywalker. I get that all the time.
I thought you were Yoda.
Oh, thanks, pal. Thanks. No, that's actually Samir on my back. Oh, God. No. That's great, man. Billy is on absolute fire. All right, that was great. I love you guys, and we're going to talk some NHL after this. We still have PGA Tour also on the agenda.
I don't know if Samir was on the best.
Your top fantasy scorer last night around the NHL, not a shocker. It's coming in the crease in a game that went to 3 overtimes. Was absolutely insane. Yeah, Igor Shesterkin, north of 46 points, 79 saves, a near 96% save percentage. Whew. Who else? Nathan McKinnon's on there. Oh, yeah, that's right, because the Avs put up like 7 goals. That was ridiculous. Adam Fox on there, too, rounding out the top 5, just north of 32 points. Let's talk to these dudes about it. Senior fantasy editor, NHL.com, and host of the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast, Pete Jensen, and in RotoWire's Paul Bruno. Guys, last night, second night of the Stanley Cup playoffs, a little better than night 1, in my opinion, because you didn't have like 75% of the games being blowouts. But Paul, what'd you take away from last night? And I wasn't able to make it for all 3 overtimes. I don't know about you. I passed out.
I turned it on in the first overtime, and I'm glad that I did. There was quite a lot of drama all the way through that. But you got to give the Penguins a lot of credit. They're down to their 3rd-string goalie here, having pulled that one off.
Yep.
I don't know if that bodes well for the future, their future in this set, but they did get the all-important first win on the road, particularly. So kudos to them. And then, I can't overlook what happened the first night, too. The same thing happened in the Florida, where the Caps upset the home side, and in Edmonton, LA edged the Oilers. So we already got some series with some intrigue, and I can't let this go to Pete without saying the Leafs played a near perfect game in their opener too.
Oh yeah, Pete. I mean, is it too early to say here that the Panthers' style can't work in the playoffs?
I mean, it's a little concerning considering they got Aaron Ekblad back and still had a stinker at home in game 1. I mean, my takeaway from the playoffs so far is don't forget about the old guard out there, right? With Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, of course, in their mid-30s and producing at the highest level and helping the Penguins, upset the Rangers there in the first game. And then, of course, on the other side, in that Capitals game, don't forget about Ovechkin. He had that key assist on the Kuznetsov goal. He's 36. And that team's not going away quietly. The Capitals, any given game, can beat anybody home and road. They've proved that year after year. So, it's May the 4th. So, I mean, these old guardsmen, they're it's kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of like Qui-Gon Jinn, the old guys that just continue to wow you every single time.
I mean, we showed you all the saves in the Penguins-Rangers game. Just put that in perspective. Markstrom there, right, for the Flames, needed only a mere 16 saves for a shutout there in the 1-0 victory over the Stars. Let's see, though. Let's go to tonight, because one of the best parts, guys, of the first round of Stanley Cup playoffs, you still get a pretty solid 4-game fantasy slate each night. It's fantastic. Lots of options. So let's see who you're going to pay up for at center, Paul.
I'm looking at 3 players whose teams need to respond tonight. The Oilers certainly face a must-win scenario, and I expect them to respond big time tonight. Look for their leaders to do the paving of the way. And instead of taking McDavid, though, I'm going to save $800 and go to Draisaitl in that one, since he's a trigger man there. I always say the guy that's most likely to get the goals is who I want to pick more often than not, if there's kind of a second choice like McDavid, who's will be a first on many people's list. And then speaking of responses, I think the Bruins need to do much the same against Carolina. Look, Carolina's absolutely bombed Boston on the scoreboard all 4 times that they've played. But I will note that the Bruins outshot them in game 1 by a pretty sizable margin. And don't forget, Antti Ranta is still in net. I don't have a lot of faith in him as the second keeper in the depth chart for Carolina. So I looked for the Bees to come back in a big way, and that means lean on Patrice Bergeron for $6,500. That's a cheap price for number 1 center on one of the best lines in hockey. And then speaking of another situation that's very similar, the Wild got shut out at home in their opener. That's not a good thing, and that they're a high-scoring team, so that we'll call it a one-off and look for their first line to rebound, and that means that Ryan Hartman is in play for me too. This guy's coming off a 34-goal season on their first line, and he only cost $5,400. A bit of an insult.
Pete, 4 dudes who will cost at least $8,000.
Yeah, and one of them, Steven Stamkos. I like this play for the Tampa Bay Lightning. This team, remember, go back to each of the past 2 postseasons. Not once did they lose consecutive games. So as much as everything's going, amazing and so great so far in Leafland, like could be a rude awakening if they don't take this game seriously. So Stamkos coming off a 100+ point season. He's never done that before prior to this season. And yeah, I really like the Stamkos play. I also like Ryan O'Reilly. I'm a little worried about the Minnesota Wild. I know it's only one game, but Ryan O'Reilly took full charge, was playing with David Perron. They both had multi-point games. O'Reilly quietly, dating back to the year the Blues won the Cup 2019, has 39 points in 40 playoff games in that span. And in points per game, that's 6th among the entire league over that span.
All right, I'm looking here in the wings and things department. Pete, Nikita Kucherov topping the list. Good spend-up spot and a potential bounce-back game for the Lightning?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not going too crazy because I have, I was impressed by the Leafs in game 1, but definitely going to spend up for either in my mock lineup, either Kucherov or Stamkos. I'm leaning towards Stamkos. I think he's a better standalone. And then, looking at other wings, I think the Bruins have bounce back appeal. I like the price on Brad Marchand, $6,700, a lot cheaper than Pasternak. And you could actually get Eric Howla to kind of offset and not only offset the price, but kind of get exposure to each of the Boston top 2 lines. But I also like Seth Jarvis on the wing, $3,400, and is playing with Sebastian Aho. He's a value pick, a glaring one at that. And Aho, not many people realize, is better than a point per game in the playoffs in his NHL career. And Seth Jarvis, one of the most underrated rookies in the league this season.
Paul, what's your strategy at winger?
First, let me say I've been crossing my fingers. It might look like I'm doing the Draymond Green thing here, but I'm crossing my fingers when he makes the Tampa references, okay, just to be clear. I think Boston is the team that I would stack tonight, so I look for them to square their set, and that means they're going to rely on their top players. David Pasternak is the top sniper on the wing that I'll be looking to put in my lineup, costing $7,500. This guy's got 7 goals, 16 points in his last 10 games played, averaging over 4 shots on goal in that stretch. He always comes up big when the chips are down. The Bees will be in it all night tonight, and I think they're going to come out on top. The Leafs skated away from the Lightning in game 1, I'm reminding you, and Ilya Mikheyev is a guy who typifies just what they did to earn that advantage with an up-tempo style of play. He's a key on both special teams as well. You play the second power play unit and gets shorthanded time, and in Toronto, that means that they're going for goals even when they're shorthanded. They did it in game 1. And that's a real threat to the Tampa forwards as well. He's only going to cost $3,800. The Bolts will be focused on the Leafs big line. So I'm counting on Toronto's second unit, where you'll find Mikheyev to take advantage of a better matchup. And then finally, Kevin Fiala has only 1 point in his last 4 games. That comes on the heels of a 10-game scorching hot streak in the left wing on the second line here. I say he'd get out of his rut and the Wild offense tonight at home. He cost $5,800 this evening.
Yeah, good value play. 85 points in 82 games, average north of 3 shots a goal per game there for Fiala. Bring us home here, Pete, with your pick on the blue line.
I'll go with Evan Bouchard for the Edmonton Oilers. He brings some exposure at even strength to McDavid and Draisaitl in a bounce-back spot for the Oilers at home. But Bouchard returned value in game 1 with an assist and 2 shots. And he's also been returning value stretch run of the regular season. He's putting up a ton of shots. He's putting up a ton of blocks in the regular season span, closing it out, and 5 points in his final 6 games. So Evan Bouchard, I think next year is going to be a big breakout candidate. But even so, this year, he's top 15 among all defensemen in the league in even strength points. So this guy's got total untapped potential for any given game come postseason time.
Paul Hedman, top of the list here. His price dropped $300 too.
It's going to drop for a couple more games, and then you'll say bye-bye to him. How about that? Eh? I'm instead looking at 2 other power play quarterbacks that are a lot cheaper. In fact, they come in at sub 5,000 on tonight's schedule. Charlie McAvoy plays all the high leverage minutes for the Bruins and is a team leader there. It's not often you'll see this top D man for only $4,600. I lock him in as part of my Boston stack. And the same narrative applies to Minnesota's Jared Spurgeon. For $3,800, you're getting their top power play defenseman in the lineup. Both of these picks, no-brainers for me, and I'm glad I can save money on the blue line, which means I'll spend money elsewhere.
Guys, both of you were fantastic today. Appreciate it. One more break to go, one more block to go. We're talking Wells Fargo Championship with Jeff and Len right after this.
All right, clear. Thanks, guys.
Can you imagine how insufferable I'll be if Louise?
We continue our trip now across the DFS galaxy, turning our attention to the Wells Fargo Championship on the PGA Tour. Len Hochberg of RotoWire Senior Golf Writer Forum, and Jeff Ulrich, DraftKings contributor, who has an evil edge to him. Almost has a villain-esque, I don't know, attitude at times. Oh, Jeff Wren! Let the past die. Kill it if you have to, says Jeff Ulrich, Kylo Ren. You look great with hair, Jeff. You look really good with hair.
Not prepared. Yeah, I'm going to have to study that. And I might even just frame that in my office. I mean, me with hair. Wow. Those were the days of yesteryear.
Those really were the days, man. But we love you, which is why you had the Star Wars treatment today on May the 4th, which is also Rory McIlroy's birthday, Len Hochberg. And Rory McIlroy, one of 5 players priced at over 10K, so he's 11-5. Second on the board here is Tony Finau at 10-6. Had a T2 last week at the Mexico Open. So I want you to chase your faith for me here, Len, that he can break through this week in Maryland.
Yeah, well, I actually like that picture. First of all, I'm not to the point. I'm not gonna hang it in my office, but I do like it. So may the force. Tony Finau has won top 10 since last summer when he won the Northern Trust, and that came last week. He went, I don't know, what's August to May? How many months is that? 8 months, or 9 months, something like that. And he had the top 10 in a very weak Mexico field, in large part because he just shot lights out on Sunday, a 63, and zoomed up the leaderboard. Tony Finau is better than a guy who doesn't get top 10s for 9 months, but he has not been playing well. His driving accuracy is way off. Some of the clubs that he's really come to rely on have been a little bit off this year, and I'm not willing to jump back on board with just 18 holes of one very good round in a weak field.
All right, Ulrich, how you feel about Sweet T Fowler's favorite golfer?
I share the exact same concerns as Len this week. It's pretty much word for word. He's also 10-6 this week, and the round was nice. He still missed every single putt. It's great that he comes up and he puts up the great ball striking week, but most of it did come in that last round when he was far, far back. Now he's coming to a course. The rough is up. Accuracy is more at a premium. If those numbers dip at all, and they're likely to, I don't think he's going to get 8 strokes on approach again. He could. He's good enough to, but the history, the trends have said that he's probably not going to do that. Well, the putter's probably not going to save him either. So I think the big thing is for DFS, the salary is just too much. You've got a ton of good, solid players who I think set up better for this course anyways, like Hatton and Fitzpatrick down there cheaper. Tony Finau is fine. I'm glad he's getting for him. I think definitely keep an eye on him for the majors. But for this week, I'm not overly interested.
Yeah, everyone's like, seems like he's back to elite form. And it's like, how many times have we done this with him? I'm sure Reed can talk more about that tonight at 5 o'clock on the slate. Well, Len, including Rory, we have a number of players that have not played since the Masters, which, was about a month ago at this point. Names like Mark Leishman, Paul Casey, Sergio, Max Homa. Which one are you chasing? Are they rested or are they rusty here?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're rusty. I think it's interesting you brought that up because it is a smart play. I think we are getting to major season now. The PGA is just 2 weeks away, And between the PGA and the Open Championship, less than 2 months, 53 days, if I added it up correctly. That's crazy busy golf. So these guys are smart to take a rest. The one guy I'm concerned with there is Paul Casey. He didn't just take a rest. He was hurt. We don't know where he is with his back. He has not played since before the Masters, since the match play. Mark Leishman, I'm a little lukewarm on him this week. He had not been playing well going into the Masters in his last 4 or 5 tournaments. So I think if anything, he will be better now with the rest. And Max Homa, I always like Max Homa.
All right, Jeff, who's your pick here?
Yeah, I mean, Paul Casey is definitely setting up as like the kind of he's the max GPP play this week, and just by that I mean like he is completely boom or bust. No one's gonna play him because everyone's scared of the back issues. But realistically, like Paul Casey sets up extremely well for this course. It's not going to be a birdie fest. We don't need Paul Casey to get like lights out with the putter. It's fairways and greens. Paul Casey's strong off the tee. Obviously, like in terms of mid to long iron play, there's really nobody that's much better than Paul Casey on tour. That's how consistent he is with those clubs. So you like that. I mean, it's just going to be a tougher, maybe even the weather gets up a little bit. Casey has done well in tough conditions at certain points in his career too. So I think from that perspective, like the upside there is enough for me to take a shot with Paul Casey here. When you're getting a mix of low ownership and a guy who sets up this well for a course, that's fine. Obviously, there's risk involved here, but for GPPs and to win those big fields, we need to take risk. And I think Paul Casey is the type of player who should be taking a risk on in this field, in this spot where, again, we don't have a ton of talent at the top. Paul Casey could certainly, if he was in form, be priced like 10K or above here. So I think Casey for me is the guy I'll take a shot on, even though he's obviously carrying the most risk.
Jeff, we have less than 90 seconds to go on the show, so quickly, hook me up with your value play.
Yeah, value play, I really like the 7,500 range here. 2 guys, CT Pan and David Lipsky. Pan has gained strokes on approach in 6 straight events. He's gaining off the tee as well. If his putter and around the green game had showed up last week, he would have been top 10, but his price has actually come down now. Really like CT Pan. David Lipsky led the field in strokes gain approach last week. I like both those guys at 7,500.
Len, value play.
Sepp Straka, 7,600, won the Honda, top 10 at the Players, 3rd last time out at Harbor Town. It's crazy. Keegan Bradley, $2,000 more than Sepp Straka. Aaron Rye, Doug Gim, priced more. Jonathan Vegas, priced more than Sepp Straka. I think this is just a real misprice. 7,600, Sepp.
Finally, your favorite play, DFS play for the Wells Fargo Championship, Len Hochberg.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what I just said. It's Sepp Straka. I'm not saying he's going to win the tournament, but I just see incredible value there. And I haven't seen value like this that really stood out for me very often, where I just think it's a misprice. He's the same price as Matthew Neesmith. So I'm going to drive home Sepp Straka.
Jeff, favorite play?
I'm going to switch. I do like Gary Woodland, but I like Russell Henley more with these wet and rough conditions. I think Russell Henley is a great play at 9,300 this week.
All right, that's it, guys. Madden starts at noon, and then Jeff, Free T. Fowler, and yours truly will be back at 5 o'clock here on the DraftKings Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube pages for the slate talking golf and football. Toodaloo.